Hey, this is Mason, and welcome to episode 11 of the Happy Raccoon podcast. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. It's episode 11, and it's just me again. You're stuck with me. I have no guests for this show. I've been saying this since like episode 3, but I've been working on getting Greg Sheridan in here. And he'll be here soon enough. I can't wait because Greg's awesome, and I love Greg to death. But today we do have some fun stuff to go over. I'm excited to share some of the latest stuff with you guys, and first off, I want to give a quick update on a couple of things. I know that many of you are probably just leaping at the latest on whether or not I got a vasectomy. And drum roll, here's what happened. I did not get a vasectomy. Now, before you start jumping to conclusions that I changed my mind, what actually happened is I showed up ready to go. I went through all of the anxiety that goes into getting your testicles touched by another man. And I showed up, and Becca drove me, and she was with me, and we were in the elevator on the way up to the doctor's office in Johnson City, New York. And I get a call, and this is, hi, my name is so-and-so with your doctor. I'm not going to say his name. And unfortunately, he just got called into an emergency room situation, and he's not able to perform the surgery today. So he canceled on me last second, which is a huge bummer because I had already gone through all of that anxiety, and I didn't get to get my vasectomy. So they scheduled it for May 14th, and that's too long for me. I didn't want to wait that long because May is a fun month for me. My local church league softball team starts then, as if you guys care at all about that. And turkey hunting season starts then, which I'm passionate about. So anyways, I complained a little bit and got them to reschedule to this Tuesday. So 3 days from when I'm recording this episode. So when this comes out, this time, hopefully I'll be getting a vasectomy as you're listening to this. So I hope that's a wonderful thought for you that while you're listening to this episode, I'm getting a vasectomy. I hope that's just enhances your experience as you look me in the eye if you're watching the video, or as you hear my voice. I hope that you enjoy the fact that I will be having a vasectomy literally as we speak. Even though it's only 20 minutes of my day, that's the whole time I was told it would take to have a vasectomy. I hope that you're actually listening to it as I'm getting a vasectomy. So anyway, and during last episode as well, I shared with you guys that we're going to be launching a spin-off of the Happy Raccoon podcast. And it's going to be a little bit more centered around, almost like a Bible study podcast. I'm going to be talking a lot about what I'm learning in Bible school as I'm doing school online. And I'm going to be talking a little bit about what they're preaching about at my local church, Bridgewater. Shout out to Bridgewater. And so yeah, that's going to be coming out on Thursdays. I don't know for sure when I'll actually get to there. I still have some work I got to do. It is a huge undertaking to do this all by myself, to come up with enough to say in 30 to 45 minutes. And you're probably thinking to yourself, all I say is gibberish, which is totally true. Anyway, I do want to make sure that I put a good effort in regardless. So I'm not sure exactly what Thursday it'll be. It won't be this Thursday, and it probably won't even be the next Thursday. But at some point in May, I would think that one of those Thursdays I'd be launching the Happy Raccoon spinoff. I don't have a name for it yet. I might actually do a poll on my Instagram, which if you don't follow us on Instagram, it's at Happy Raccoon Podcast. Follow us there. Yeah, so I'm not sure. I might do a poll on there to get ideas for what to call it. Right now I'm thinking the Happy Raccoon Podcast Sunday School Edition or something like that. I think it's kind of fun, but anyway, yeah, so tune in for that. I'll let you guys know when that's coming out, but it's not going to be for a little bit yet. Still have some work I got to do on that. Of course, I record these episodes at like 10 o'clock on Sunday, and I got work early in the morning, so that's why I'm always yawning. It's been a crazy crazy week. Work was crazy. But we went to the aquarium down in Scranton. And first of all, I live about an hour away from Scranton, where I live right now. And you when you go to Scranton, you figure out why NBC or CBS, whoever created The Office and whoever the creators were, why they decided on Scranton. Because it goes in line and in theme with The Office, and that they all kind of live really mediocre lives, because Scranton is the most mediocre city of all time. I went to Scranton for the first time like right before I moved here, and I was so excited. I wanted to see all the little landmarks in the intro, and so much of it they just removed. Right? Sorry, I keep yawning again. So much of it they just removed because they were causing like traffic hazards. But yeah, Scranton was seriously so overrated and so much of a disappointment. But this yesterday, Saturday, I took the kids and Becca down to Scranton to go to the Electric City Aquarium. And dude, it was a snooze fest. It was so boring. There were like maybe 40 different animals tops. 40 different like aquariums or terrariums, right? And you kind of just walk around like 2 or 3 halls maybe. The coolest thing was they had a king cobra at this aquarium, and I couldn't believe how long it was. This king cobra had to have been like maybe 11 foot long, just so long, and it was like this really cool like rusty gray color. It was really, really cool, but it came like right up to the glass, and like Haven and this king cobra just like stared each other down. And honestly, that would be a fair fight, like Haven versus king cobra. And if you don't already know this, Haven is my precious 2-year-old daughter. Dude, we were told that when she turns 2, which is in like 6 or 7 weeks or so, that she'll need to start wearing a mask. And there's just no way that happens. Like, not out of like my principle, but just the fact that I can't even get her to like wear her shoes on right. Like there's no way she wears a mask. Yeah, just no chance. So that'll be really fun to battle out with. Hoping by then, I've been saying this since last year, but I'm hoping by then that, something changes with the masks. But COVID cases are on the rise, per usual. So what else? Before I get too deep into this episode, doing all of the updates. Yeah, so I wanted to update you guys on Becca and I's pursuit of this ministry life that we want to lead. So if you have been here since episode 1, first of all, you're awesome. I'm going to start coming out with like rankings, and I'm going to start sending people t-shirts for listening to a certain amount of episodes. But if you made it here all the way from episode 1, first of all, I love you very much. But you know that Becca and I are doing this podcast in hopes to eventually build an audience that we can monetize and spread awareness for ministry. And that ministry, we don't know what that looks like yet, but in the future, we want to be in some sort of ministry, either stateside or as missionaries overseas. We're not entirely sure what that looks like, but we started this podcast as a storytelling mechanism for us to share what's going on in our lives, but also to hear the amazing stories of the people around us. And last week I hit 10 episodes, and I've had some incredible guests along the way. You go to episode 2, I had John Groves on the podcast, who's an Anglican pastor from Texas that now lives in Binghamton, New York. I had Mervyn Stoltzfus, who was formerly Amish as a child, who now lives in upstate Pennsylvania, or in Pennsylvania, upstate New York, maybe. And he's a terrific guy. He shares a lot about the Amish people in that community. And then I had Tim Ord on the podcast as well, Ben Ely, and then Mike Mullen, and it's been just a blast. I've had a lot of good friends over, and but that's what I would love, just to grow this into more of that and to have more people on the podcast. And I've been saying this for a while now. If you want to be on the podcast, I want you to be on the podcast. I think that everyone has a great story to tell, and I'd love to have you on here. So gosh, if you're up for it, come on the podcast, reach out to me. You can go to happyraccoon.net. There's a form on there you can fill out to sign up to be on the podcast. So I would love it. Oh, dude, you're probably wondering where the heck I am if you're watching the video. We did a little bit of a studio change. I've been in a walk-in closet recording podcast, and it's a really big closet, and for me, it's like super big because I'm a pretty small guy, but we had Mike over a few weeks ago to record a podcast, and Mike's probably like 6 foot. He's about like my size and build. He's probably a little bit skinnier than I am. I'm still working on losing some chub. But Mike felt real cooped up in there. I was watching the video, and we were both like on top of each other a little bit, which is super uncomfortable. So anyways, we moved into this bigger room. It's great. I'm going to be able to have multiple guests at a time now. I'm hoping to have maybe 2 or even 3, have like a little round table thing where we all just kind of talk about random things. You can't see because I have the camera pointed directly at me, but I have a seat next to me, and I have a couple of different mics, so we can have more than just one guest on the podcast, and that'd be a lot of fun. I look forward to that. I'd love to do so rude. I'm sorry. I'd love to do a double date podcast, if that makes sense. Like have me and Becca, and then like John and Angel or something like that. That'd be kind of cool. Anyways, dude, where was I? Yes. So if you listen to episode 1, the initial goal was for Becca and I to get to school this January. That school is in Waukesha, Wisconsin. It's not looking like it's going to work out that way. We had some bumps in the road that have thrown things off course just a little bit. Nothing too crazy. But you remember how everyone was just getting handed stacks of cash from the government for no apparent reason? People who worked full-time jobs are just being handed out like thousands of dollars from the government. If you can't tell by the tone of my voice, I don't typically agree with the stimulus and what it does. But I just tend to think that if that kind of money, changes your life, then that's probably a little bit, weird. But regardless, if you know from episode 4, I had to quit my job for conviction that I felt about it. And I quit my job. I thought maybe that money that came in from the stimulus would kind of help bridge the gap for us, that we wouldn't have to, dig too deep into our pockets or go in debt at all. And for whatever reason, we just didn't get our stimulus, and we're not entirely sure why. In fact, I've never gotten a stimulus since the very first one, and I've tried calling the IRS. They have no clue. They just tell me to wait patiently. I filled out on my tax return that I didn't get last year's stimulus. You can fill out a form saying, hey, I didn't get it, and they're supposed to give you a rebate. And then all of a sudden my return just never shows up, and I don't know what's going on. It's been like 3 months almost since my return was accepted by the IRS, and I just have never gotten a return. I never got paid from the government. So I have no clue. All that to say, it was a major setback for us, which really, really stinks. We had to go into quite a bit of, not a ton of debt, but we had to go into debt over the last couple months or so to bridge the gap between my last job to my current job. We went without a paycheck for like 8 weeks, which is super stressful. If you know what that's like, then you know how difficult it is. But resonate with me for a minute. When you're the sole provider for a family and you got 2 precious little girls and a wife that count on you for things, it put me through a lot of struggles. And I'm just so thankful for God's provision, and that I was able to get a job as quickly as I did. It was a really uncomfortable time. I don't regret quitting my job. I stand by that decision. I think that I made the right decision. I'm not going to go into why I quit my job. You can go back to that episode and find out why. But regardless, it's been a really tough time. But that setback set us back a little bit further, in that it's not going to happen for us to make it in January, which is a real bummer. and we're disappointed, but I think that God has his own plan in that, and I think that we'll be all right. And so now we're pushing to go fall of 2022, which is like 17 months, maybe like 16 or 15 months away from now, which is fine. I wanted to go quicker, but regardless, I'll be doing online school till then. And then when we get there in fall of 2022, we just have that school year. So we'll be done in about 2 years from now. We'll be done with school entirely, which is great. And I'm looking forward to that a lot. But I'm also looking forward to just getting there and actually doing the school and immersing myself in that environment. It's going to be great. Anyways, that's just a little bit of an update on what's going on with us. I know a handful of you have been so kind to help support this journey and this pursuit. Some of you have bought in soap from us. If you're not familiar, Becca and I have sort of branched out the Happy Raccoon podcast into Happy Raccoon soap as well. We hand make our own soap with our own recipe with fresh lavender in it. And we've been selling it to help raise money for Bible school. So if you're interested in supporting us through that and contributing to that, I would be so appreciative. You can go to happyraccoon.net/soap to purchase your own. We only have one pack on there right now. It's just 2 lavender soap. So go check that out. Really appreciate that. And I appreciate any willingness to support us in that way. We're just hoping we can get there as soon as we can. And regardless, that was what I wanted to do. I wanted to share an update because that is the whole goal and reason why we're doing this thing. So we're encouraged. Where Becca and I are at, we're encouraged. This week in particular, Becca texted me and she said hey, regardless of where we're at financially, if we're in the negative or in the positive, that she said that I'm so thankful for a happy home with happy kids and healthy kids. And man, that just touches me as like a provider for the family. That just melted me. But I agree with her so much, and that we're both just so thankful for what God has done in our lives to continue to provide for us and show us that He's in control of the situation. And it would have been real nice to have that stimulus come in, and it's a little bit frustrating. I feel like I'm not recognized as a citizen of the United States, but it is rather frustrating, and we're getting through it, and it's going to be all good. I'm hopeful that eventually this money will come in, but at this point, I'm kind of just not banking on it. I just don't trust that it eventually will, but who knows? It would be great if it did, and if it doesn't, then it doesn't. That's okay, because we have each other and have a job, and nothing really changes. I didn't believe in the fundamentals of a stimulus check anyway. If anything, I thought it should have gone to businesses that have employees so that we can keep people paid. That seems to make the most sense to me. I get that the stimulus payment is for people to stimulate the economy by purchasing things, but I happen to find that people just spend it on irresponsible things, and that just doesn't make any sense to me. That's my personal take on the stimulus, and it's probably just because I'm salty that I haven't gotten one. I think it's hysterical that people call it a stimmy. That's my favorite thing. It's maybe my favorite word right now is just stimmy, but my mouth is dry today. All right, so that's the update on our pursuit of going into ministry. And one thing that I'm super challenged as well, and I was challenged by a couple of pastors in our church, in that I don't need to be in the mission field to have a ministry, and I feel extremely challenged to find a ministry just where I'm at right now and finding contentment in where I'm at right now. And lately I've just been on this project of just loving my friends a little bit better. I think I'm overall a good friend, but I think that I'm investing in my friendships a little bit more. And most of my friends are all Christians, and I don't know if that's necessarily ministry, but God's working in my heart for sure. There's a lot that I'm working on changing just about myself and working towards glorifying God more. And I think that I look forward to a future that displays God's glory a little bit more in my life. So yeah, and with that, the Happy Raccoon podcast, Thursday episodes with about Bible study episodes or so. It's going to be a ton of fun. I'm looking forward to that, and I hope that you guys choose to tune in then. Those episodes are going to be about 10 to 15 minutes, a lot shorter than these ones. Typically, when I do these solo episodes, they only go about 40 minutes or so. When I have a guest, they go about an hour. So I take up a little bit more of your time, but during these Thursday episodes, they're going to be about 10 or 15 minutes. So anyway, so yeah, one thing that I wanted to share with you guys. I only had one article this week that just is incredible, and it's Florida again. You know how Florida is. Florida gets bored, and Florida's got to go out and do some real Florida stuff. So anyways, let's check this article out. All right, here's the headline. There's no video on this one. So, turtle crashes through windshield on Florida highway and survives. Now, the first question is does this turtle fly? How in the world is a turtle crashing through a windshield? Right? Okay. So, April 22nd, a turtle crashed through the windshield of a car on a Florida highway and struck a 70-year-old woman in the head. They don't say anything about the woman surviving. Turtle shells are hard, dude, and they're kind of sharp on the edges. So the fact this 71-year-old lived through it is kind of crazy. So it struck a 70-year-old woman in the head, but both the woman and the turtle are expected to be okay. It actually says right here, and the reptile. Are turtles reptiles? I thought they were like amphibians. Or is that a frog? I'm not sure. Let's look that up. All right, let's see. Come on, Google, are turtles reptiles? Also, that's one thing. I don't know if you guys can hear that. This new podcast studio is a little bit closer to the common areas in my home, so if you hear the TV going, that's Becca. Turtles are reptiles. Wow, look at that. Okay. Sorry, I should have trusted the news article. I don't trust anybody these days. All right, here we go. The Port Orange Police Department said a woman called 911 on Wednesday to report that she had been driving on Interstate 95 when an object crashed through her windshield and struck her passenger, her 71-year-old mother, in the head. A driver who stopped to help the 911 call identified the object that came through the glass as a turtle. The 911 caller's mother was taken to Halifax Health Medical Center in Daytona Beach, where doctors determined a cut above her eye was not a serious injury. She is expected to make a full recovery. Well, isn't that just dandy? Officer Andre Fleming, a police spokesman, said firefighters discovered the turtle was alive and apparently free of serious injuries. Well, thank goodness, right? Suffering only scratch marks to its shell, Fleming said the firefighters released the turtle into nearby woods. The driver of the vehicle said he didn't see the turtle until it was in the air and falling towards her windshield. Police said the animal may have been thrown into the air by a nearby vehicle. That makes sense to me, right? Because when you're in Florida and you're just naturally a Florida person and you're from Florida, what you typically do, instead of just, going to the mall and having a coffee, or maybe instead of going to the beach and walking around, or maybe instead of spending some high quality time with friends, what you typically do is you play frisbee golf with turtles on I-95 in Daytona Beach, Florida. That's typically just an average day. And then when you're done with that, you can jump rope with anacondas, you golf with alligators, and you do whatever the heck the rest of the time that Florida people do. But anyway, so someone clearly had a pet turtle that they wanted to get rid of. And this is a real thing, and it's a problem. But people seem to think they can just discard their pets on the highway, which is a big bummer, and it's not okay. But I've heard stories all the time. In fact, my cousin, I believe he just got a new puppy, a husky puppy, that they just found a whole litter of them on like the side of the highway between Utah and Arizona, or maybe Colorado and Utah, or your Colorado and Arizona, one of those, square states, and he ended up adopting one of them. But people do that. They just discard pets on the freeway, and it's kind of a real crappy thing to do. But someone clearly thought to themselves, I'm done having this tortoise or this turtle, and I'm going to toss it off the freeway. It's really easy to just let a turtle go in the wild. Why you had to go on the freeway and throw it and clearly ruin someone's week. I mean, this is going to damage their car, obviously. This poor woman got a pretty serious cut under her eye. It doesn't feel like an entirely fair situation to me. And if the person listening to this podcast is the person that threw that turtle, you're no longer welcome to be a member of the Happy Raccoon Podcast Dumpster Diver Club, which is what I'm calling the fan base of this podcast from now on. It's a Dumpster Diver Club. Anyways, that's my only article. Dude, things just go nuts in Florida. You know what I mean? Like, Florida is just, like, the amount of... I have a specific website that I go to find oddball news, and so many of these are just Florida. Like, Florida this, Florida that. Florida existed again today. Like, it's kind of just ridiculous, everything that goes on in Florida. Let me find another one. Like, yeah, Florida is just out of control. Someone needs to get a good grip on Florida and handle that. Yeah. Anyway. So that's our news article from this week. Here we go. Florida police capture loose lemur. Another one is still on the run. I mean, you know, out of control. Florida cyclist path blocked by alligators. Leave the whole state, obviously. That's my only news article this week. I'm going to close this episode with a story. I can't believe I haven't shared the story, and I'm going to check the time on my podcast really quick. Make sure I'm not going too long. 26 minutes. I got enough time. Okay. I can't believe I haven't shared the story yet, but I think that when God stitched me in my mother's womb, he thought to himself, this Mason kid one day is going to be a really good detective if he does all the right things. I've set him up real well to be a detective. Now, he might not go on to do that. And it turns out I didn't. I did not go on to be a detective, unfortunately. And that's okay. But I am a master at using the internet and using the tools at hand to destroy scam artists. Let me tell you where it all started. When I was 16 years old, I had a Samsung Galaxy Tab. It was like a tablet from Samsung. It was pretty crappy. Apple products are just so superior, you know what I mean? I was going off to Bible college, I think, and I wanted to sell it. So I put it on Craigslist, because that's what you did back in the day. For all you kiddos that only know Facebook Marketplace, there used to be a thing called Craigslist. Ooh, it's where perverts went to find lovers. So I put it on Craigslist, and I put it up for like $250, and I had a guy reach out to me, and he said, hey, yeah, that sounds great. Like, I'd love to buy it. But you know what? I'm actually in this area, and I'm moving soon. So can you ship it to me, and I'll PayPal you? Now, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, little old Mason didn't think anything of it. So, you know, this guy, I get an email saying this guy paid me on PayPal. So I thought, okay, I'll hold up my end of the bargain. I shipped it to him, and that was that. So, you know, off he went, this tablet. And I'm realizing that, like, the payment never really, like, went through to PayPal. So I called PayPal, and they're like, hey, we have no history of this transaction. And I find out that I had been scammed out of my tablet. So I used the address on that was sent to me. I called the police department. I think it was Clovis, California. I mailed it to. And that was that. Like 2 years later, I get a call from a detective down in Clovis saying they busted this guy. His name was Alex Nugent. There's a bunch of Alex Nugents out there, so don't go trying to find one on Facebook and call him out, because it probably isn't him. But they busted this guy named Alex Nugent, and they said that your tablet in particular was not recovered. But essentially what this guy was doing is that he was stealing all sorts of technology from people, and then he would sell it himself. So they said that they recovered thousands of iPhones and tablets and computers and different technology equipment in this guy's house. And that he was facing a hard time. He was looking at federal grand theft charges. The detective wanted to know if I wanted to press charges, and I asked if it made a difference, and he said probably not. And I said, then sure, why not? And yeah, so, and then like 2 or 3 months after that, I get a call from the same detective saying, hey, he was convicted and he was ordered to pay a restitution to the victims. So I might or might not call you up in that. And I never heard about the restitutions since then. So that was the last I ever heard of it. Restitutions is such like a waste of time. No one ever pays restitution it's so stupid. Jordan Belfort, who is like the Wolf of Wall Street, was supposed to pay millions of dollars in restitution. If you look it up, he's paid like a couple $100,000. He'll never pay the full restitution. He'll just die and he'll keep making the little payments until eventually he dies. Like, it's so dumb. Nobody actually pays restitution. So, and since then I've changed my phone number and address. There's no way they can even get a hold of me at this point. So it's all good. You know, Alex Nugent's probably out of prison at this point. But that happened to me and I learned a valuable lesson. And that valuable lesson is, one, be really cautious when selling on PayPal, and two, don't trust really anybody when purchasing, from consumer to consumer online pretty much. So, anyways, fast forward several years. I don't think there was another incident like this at the beginning or since then, but about 2 years ago, not quite. Why does it even matter, About 2 years ago, my mom, bless her heart, right? She's a sweet lady. She thinks it's a good idea to buy a golden retriever puppy online. When it comes to puppies, everyone gets pretty excited, and it's easy to make a mistake right there. So my mom buys this golden retriever puppy online, and she has to do through PayPal, and she has to pay extra for shipping. And they say, okay, the puppy's going to be mailed in this really like high tech, air conditioned shipping container thing right to your door. It's all great. It's only $750. And my mom is far too sweet and ignorant to know that she's being scammed. So I find out so my mom calls me, she's upset. This dude scammed her out of like $750. I'm all sorts of ticked off about that. Everyone is. So this dude scammed my mom, and I had a general idea of what he did to do that. So the very next day, I create a fake phone number using the Google Phone app, and I go on the website that my mom, tried to buy this from, and I go and I pick the same puppy my mom picked. I texted the number and I said, hey, I'm interested in purchasing this puppy. They said, hey, that's great. Here's what we'll go ahead and do. I will request this money from your PayPal account. Or no, he gave me his email address. He said, go ahead and PayPal me $850 to this email address. So what I did was, instead of doing that, I created a fake PayPal email address. So I created like support, PayPal at support, like a series of numbers and letters, and like I made it really long so it was like really hard to see that it was like support, PayPal at support, 176D912 whatever over and over at gmail.com. I just made a phony email address essentially. And so I took that email address and I designed it really nice. I took PayPal's like scientific hex colors, right? If you know, like every color has like a specific name and number to it. So I took PayPal's exact hex numbers and I created this beautiful email template. And on there, I put PayPal's logo, PayPal's font, and I put on there and it said, hey, Mason is trying to pay you $850. Please log in to your account to verify. And I put a big old button right there that says verify. Now that button links to a website that I created. Now that website was fake, but I made it look like it was a real website from PayPal. It was like PayPal support, a bunch of numbers and whatever.com, just a fake PayPal site. It's pretty easy, honestly. Same thing, hex numbers, logos, all of that. And it was a really just simple form. It was just like, verify your account. But on that form, I asked for the first name, the last name, the home address, the social security number, and the birthday. So the next day, this person who scammed my mom wakes up and they have an email from PayPal. That email says, oh, Mason's trying to send me $850. I just have to verify my account. No problem. He goes into the account, or he goes into the email. He just like that. He falls into my trap. He clicks on the button. He goes to my website. He fills out the form. Oh, nothing happens. He didn't get his money. He filled out the form 9 different times and submitted it 9 different times. So now I have his real phone number, not the fake phone number he's been texting me on. I have an actual verified blue color, which means it's an iPhone phone number. This is this person's real phone number. I had his real phone number. I had his address. I had his full name. I had his social security number. I had all of this information on this guy. I bundled all that up and I looked up the phone number and I cross-traced where this guy was located. I got his street address. I got all the information. I got the names of his family members. I got everything on this dude. I was ready to crush this dude. But before I turned over all that information over to the police, I thought it would be nice to give him a phone call. So I call him up and I say, hey, you were supposed to sell me a puppy yesterday. And he said, oh, yeah, the PayPal thing was weird. It didn't work. And I said, yeah, you fell into my trap. It's all fake, baby. I got you. And it was just pure silence on the phone. And you know what? I hung up. I went out and I said it really quietly. And I was like, you know what? You can't scam the scammer. And I hung up the phone and I felt like Denzel Washington. And I turned over all that information. The guy was located in like Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas. I turned over all that information over to the police in Dallas and never heard a thing for about 3 months. And then I got a call from a police officer. Oh, wait, let me go back. One thing I said to the guy on the phone, I said to him that he best send back the money that he took from Jennifer Cratch, my mom. I don't actually know if he ever did that or not. I think he did. I know that my mom got her money back, so I'm assuming he did. But anyway, so I called the police. Didn't hear back until about 3 months later. I get a call from a detective down in Texas saying, hey, just want to let you know that we were able to get a warrant out for that guy's arrest. Appreciate all the hard work. Anyways, I was supposed to be a detective, as you can tell. So anyways, I was helping out a friend today, actually John Grove's wife. She is dealing with a person trying to scam her right now. And she's smart enough to know that this is a scam artist and it's as blind as obvious as anything. But she said, you should tell that story on the podcast because we were talking about it. And I should have, and I just did because it's a great story. And, but anyways, so lesson learned, unless it's someone you trust, if it's a family member or a friend or someone where you know where they live and you've seen this person before, just take caution when interacting with PayPal. PayPal doesn't have a great security system. There's a lot of these scams in the way. Make sure you check every email address you get from PayPal. A lot of people fabricate the PayPal email addresses. It's how they tricked me. It's how they tricked my mom. Just be super careful of all that. But, tell you what, man, if you ever need help with a scammer, let me know. I would love to hear any stories about scammers. You guys should DM me anything about if you've ever been scammed before, because I'd love to help get them back. I've used the internet for some really dastardly things. I've used it before. I kind of took this a little bit from The Office, but it was about 2015 or so, back when Justin Bieber was at his prime. He was peeing off of balconies on people and getting arrested. It was like prime Justin Bieber, right? But all the girls still just loved him. And he was performing at the Staples Center. And I thought it would be really fun to take my older brother Michael's phone number and run an ad on Craigslist for really cheap Justin Bieber tickets at the Staples Center. And I said, to get these tickets, please call this number, first come, first serve. And of course, I put my brother's phone number. He got like 220 calls in one day from like 12-year-old girls asking if he had the Justin Bieber tickets still available. It was amazing. That is a really good prank to play on somebody. I love doing that. It will make them like crazy. And it'll make them crack. Definitely don't do it to a crazy person because they'll just snap right on the spot. But that was an incredibly fun prank to play on Michael. I do some pretty dastardly things with the internet. You don't want to mess with me, man. I am like the biggest troll there ever was, and yeah. Anyways, that's gonna wrap up this episode, you guys. It's been about 38 minutes or so. I'm super appreciative of you guys listening to this episode. If this is your first one, if this is your 11th one, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. This podcast means the world to me. I really enjoy it a lot. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of hard work, but every Tuesday the podcast comes out and I just get an overwhelming amount of support from people, and people have approached me saying that they love it, and that just like means the world to me. It's imperfect in a lot of ways. I've had to work on the audio a lot. I'm not a great sound mixer. I've had to work on the content a lot. I've said some things I'm not proud of. I've had to put a lot of work into, getting this going, and it'll still continue to improve and evolve and take form. And I think like one thing that I love about it is that it's going to evolve with me as I mature as a father and as a husband, as I continue to go through Bible school and as I enter ministry. It's going to evolve into something a little bit different down the line. Whereas right now I'm just telling goofy stories and having a good time. It's going to become something more, and I think the goal is just to build an audience that sticks with me through that. And I know that not everyone has 40 minutes in their day to listen to a podcast all the way through. Some people are too busy. I find that a lot of people listen to this are people who are just driving. Yeah, thank you so much for listening to this episode. It's been a ton of fun. Next week, I should hopefully have Becca, my wife, on the podcast. That'll be a lot of fun. Greg Sheridan will be on the podcast soon as well. And I'm also thinking about reaching out to some of my former guests as well to see if they'll come on for a second episode. So that'll be a ton of fun. But yeah, thanks so much for listening to this episode. This has been the Happy Raccoon Podcast, episode 11. I love you guys. You're great. And have a fantastic week. And wish me luck as I'm getting my vasectomy. All right. Thanks so much, guys. Bye.